I think, well, this time I had a process to follow, and it was more, okay, step to step, do this, then that. I don't know, like have your 100 designs minimum, run your P&L on a daily basis. So these all seem like, may sound like, I don't know, very insignificant like advices, like if you think about the grand scheme of things, but really all these details make or break it.
How's it going, everybody? And welcome back. In today's interview, we're going to be chatting with Bahadur, who is a member of WeScale University, who has had some incredible results to his own credit. He's gone from starting in the beginning of November to at the point we are now in February. Bahadur, thank you for joining us. Would you mind starting off just sharing what we were just chatting about, like the results that you've seen so far, and then we'll get into some of your background and the nitty-gritty details that I'm sure people would love to hear about.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, thanks for having me. Restarted this brand's concept like in mid-November 2024. So far, over 75 grand in sales, AOV at $72 if I'm not mistaken, after updating my numbers this morning, and operating roughly at 20% profit margin. I specifically mentioned profit margin because I've noticed like on prior videos, like when you post in the results and success stories, and then usually like the first or second comment is, okay, what's the profit margin, like selling t-shirts or selling apparel in general? Yeah, roughly around 20%. Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's a natural first question for a lot of people, especially since in e-commerce, we know margins can range from single digit up to maybe like 30% net as a max, but we'll get into all that stuff later on. Thank you for sharing that. And what I'd love to talk about before we get into your brand, just to give everybody a little bit of background, like what were you doing, or maybe you're still doing, prior to starting your e-commerce brand? Did you have any design experience or marketing or anything of the sort?
So not a ton of design experience, but well, by profession, I'm a paid media manager. So I work at an agency. Right now, I'm working like for a brand, for a B2B company. I've managed large advertising budgets online. I kind of knew my way around Facebook ads and Google ads and LinkedIn ads and all sorts of like media buying platforms. And that definitely gave me a huge advantage, and that definitely helped a lot. But really, that wasn't like all of it, because I also had this experience like 2 3 years ago when I also attempted in scaling this brand and like creating like an apparel print on demand brand. And well, I failed. I lost like a couple grand at that time. I thought that, okay, no Facebook advertising. So like managing something similar for other brands at this agency that I'm working for. So why not trying this for myself? And I did that and I failed miserably. And well, now with the knowledge that I've gained today, I know why. Well, because I only had like 30 designs and none of them were good. And also like the fact that I wasn't paying proper attention to recording my financials, and like cost of goods sold were high and all of that. So it all added up, and really that like single skill of knowing how to run the media and how to play with Facebook ads really didn't help. Yeah, that's what I do. I mean, I still run paid media for this company that I'm working for. And really, aside from that, I've worked on and off like on web design projects, and, you know, I've tried to kind of learn about graphic design here and there. And those are also helping right now a little bit, kind of knowing that a little bit about like different elements that contribute to a print on demand model. I think like a lot of us will come to this with one or two strengths. I mean, we think that, okay, we're good graphic designers, or well, we know paid media, we know digital advertising, so let's go and earn some additional income with print on demand model. But really, it takes more than that. It is an ecosystem, and I think learning from you and Meg and everybody else in the university has helped me to kind of learn about like other factors contributing to that ecosystem, like beyond paid media. It's not like a one skill thing for sure. There are a lot of elements, and well, you rightfully so, you mentioned that throughout the course, like and also consistently in the university. So yeah, really there is that, and that I want to highlight. Yeah, it wasn't the most like clear answer to her question, but
no, that was beautiful.
Just thought to kind of give you like the full scope of what I think about like the contribution of my prior experience to how we're doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that I'd love to hear about it is, so you had the media buying background experience, and then you went to launch the first brand, and to use your words, it failed. You probably learned a ton, either win or learn, right? But I'm really curious, like you had the the determination or, the tenacity to come back and try it again after the first failure, which is something that naturally a lot of people face, is like that first brand or the first attempt it's very rare that it just skyrockets to the top. So like it really comes down to our ability to stick with it and keep on showing back up. What was it maybe about your background or your own personality, would you say, that got you to say like, I know it didn't go the way that I wanted the first time, but I'm going to give it another shot?
I'd say like since 2017, like on and off, I've tried like different sorts of like e-commerce ventures, anything from like online arbitrage or FBA or Amazon wholesale, and like all these kind of different passive income kind of ventures that you find on the internet and YouTube. And I've tried some of those, and I've also had tried like print on demand. And really the only one that produced like any actual results in terms of sales and kind of showed any like early signs of attraction was print on demand. I wasn't profitable, but I was making sales. I like had already like about like 500 people on my mailing list, but because of like that prior kind of failed project and all of that. So I thought, okay, like I already have like a basis for this. So probably this is the most logical one for me to put my efforts behind. And aside from that, just finding you guys, I think that also really convinced me to give it another chance. It was last May when I was driving. We live in Iowa, in a small town in Iowa, and had to go to Chicago to O'Hare Airport to pick up someone. And I had like 4 or 5 hours time on my hand. But like before starting the journey, I thought, okay, let me just search for Shopify and print on demand on my podcast app. And I stumbled upon your podcast with Philip, and I listened that maybe like 2 or 3 times, like the same day, like kind of on repeat, because I thought, okay, this is very resonating with me, and like this guy is exactly like pinpointing like the stuff that like went wrong with my store. So it was like around the time that you were still kind of promoting the B1 course, and like in that podcast you said that, okay, like we've published this 23-hour long course, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
So I thought, okay, I'm going to make this my priority to consume that course in the next few days. And I did that, and I kind of followed the steps, and here we are. But the reason that I decided to give it a try was because I thought that, okay, I've already tried this. I know the basics. I'm more familiar with this versus like other ventures. So let's stick to this and kind of give it another push. And luckily it worked this time. Yeah.
That's awesome. And was there anything like comparing, aside from obviously like going through the free course and stuff, contrasting yourself and the way that you approached it and the way you showed up as like the business owner the first time compared to the second time? Were there any noticeable changes maybe about your mindset or just like how you were thinking about the business in general?
Well, I think, this time I had a process to follow, and it was more, okay, step to step, do this, then that. I don't know, like have your 100 designs minimum, run your P&L on a daily basis. So these all may sound like, I don't know, very insignificant like advices, like if you think about the grand scheme of things. But really, all these details make or break it, or at least did in my case. I wasn't running my P&L. I mean, like the time that I realized I've lost like 4 or 5 grand was when I was filing my taxes like the year after. And yeah, that it took me like a long time. And I was under impression that, okay, I'm making sales here and there, and this is paying for itself. This is paying for the Shopify subscription at least, but well, it wasn't. And yeah, definitely that difference was huge. Yeah, simply like kind of having that process to follow. Like I said, this is an ecosystem. This is not just like a single element thing. Like first time, my impression and the thought process was like, okay, I know paid media. I'm running successful ads for other companies who obviously also had like other elements in place. So I should be able to run this for myself too. That's not how it works. And well, now I know it.
Right. And then if you could take us through like from the time that you decided that like you heard the podcast, decided that you're going to go through the process, and this could be really any process, but you decided to commit yourself to it. As you started building the brand, what did the brand look like at launch, and like what were you spending your time on in those first couple of weeks and months? And then at what point did you decide like, all right, I feel like I'm ready. The brand is at a good spot. I'm going to launch some initial ads.
So I'd say like for most of the summer, I spent my time on basically going through the course, doing my designs. I knew that, okay, I'm going to need a lot more than 30 designs and I need to kind of find that winner. So really worked on that and also redid the website. I mean, like we had a website with a basic theme on Shopify, but clearly it wasn't converting well. And in order to make sure that I'm following like everything step by step according to your advice in the course, I also like redesigned the website. I used the Dawn theme that you guys have customized. Well, it wasn't customized at that time, but we had to kind of do everything manually. But well, I followed all those steps. And then like I kind of had this like mental deadline to make sure to launch it before Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And we just launched like maybe like 2 weeks before that, and we sent out a few emails to our 500 subscribers at the time, which really we didn't get much of sales from that, and most of sales just came from like Facebook ads. Even up to this point, over like 90% of our sales is still reliant on Facebook ads, which is definitely an area for improvement for us to kind of get more revenue from email and other channels. Yeah, that was kind of the overall process, to just, heads down, learning and doing the designs and making sure that like we get to like 100 designs minimum before lunch.
Yeah, and then take us through like after you launched, you got some initial sales from the ads and perfect timing with Black Friday, Cyber Monday. What were some of the like initial challenges or growing pains that you had like in the first couple of weeks, like on the path from 0 to your first 100 sales on the store, say?
Like customer service was definitely like one of those areas, and making sure that like we had the right process and also like right system in place basically to address those questions and like calls and emails that we received in our customer support inbox. So really there was that, and probably just like that, like thinking long term mentality and not getting distracted by like day to day kind of up and downs in performance. Because, well, you're going to have days that, and we had days that like we sold closer to like $2,000, and then like the following day we barely broke even. Kind of being ready to kind of go through those phases and making sure that like you're kind of zooming out when you're looking at this as a business, which is kind of obvious, but like when you're so integrated like in a business, like on a day-to-day basis, sometimes it is hard, but kind of had to remind ourselves about that a lot. And the reason that I kind of reference to us as like plural, as we and us, is because also my wife is heavily involved in this, and she's helping a lot with the customer service aspect, with the like behind the scene, like uploading the designs and everything like from Printify and publishing them to Shopify and all of that. So like that has been kind of another like win for me for sure, like kind of turning this from a like solo mission into like a family project and family business. So that part of it is also definitely a win for us, and I'm very, very grateful for that.
That's amazing. It sounds kind of similar, you and your wife, to the partnership that Meg and I have on the business. That I, fortunately, because I work with her, that allows me to focus on the areas that I like to work on, which is like the ads and optimizing the store, which sounds like it might be similar for you. And then she gets to work on the stuff that she likes doing, which is like taking care of the customers, making sure everything is organized and like ready to go on the back end. And obviously you can't run the business without either piece. So like it's a really powerful combination. You brought up a really interesting point in there about like the ups and downs when it comes to performance, and that segues into just ads in general, especially for somebody who's a complete beginner thinking about starting on Shopify in general, knowing that Facebook ads can be a great traffic source, but it's a little intimidating for somebody starting off for the very first time. And what would you say to those people that are, complete beginners? They've never run any ads before, especially coming from your media buying experience. How crucial would you say that is, having prior experience? And is there anything that those beginners could do to like alleviate the process and hopefully get to profitability faster without having to have a large ad budget?
I think it all comes down to having that like test and learn mentality. Like start small, test the small, learn from your tests, and invest in your successes and scale from there. So I think like there's this misconception out there that like a lot of people think like media platforms in general are just like for larger brands where they have like tons of money to like test different ideas or even like to waste on their, marketing ad dollars and all of that. But really there are a ton of small businesses and like print on demand and like this type of ventures are just like one category. And this whole like D2C model is running on Facebook ads, is running on paid social, like in the like Google ads and platforms like that. So there is definitely a pathway to profitability, and it goes through testing. And like in our case, we don't have like a ton of budget to test. Well, it would be testing small. It might take longer, but still, that's the method. That's the way. Test, learn from those tests, get rid of things that don't work, add and double up on things that work for you, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, and then don't sweat the small stuff like the ups and downs, like you were saying before, because that's to be expected, right? Especially with lower spend, when $100 or $200 in sales, that's as a percentage of sales, that's a pretty big difference. So it can feel like the peaks and dips are much more substantial. And then I'm curious, so we launched 2 weeks before Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Take us through what was like just a high level, like month by month, the growth after that. And then I'm also curious if the growth that you had was something that you were you guys expecting this, yourself and your wife, when you launched, or is this kind of taking a different level?
We definitely had a good Black Friday, Cyber Monday weekend, and then a really good December. But to our surprise, I mean, like we were under impression that okay, like everyone is kind of shopping mode right now, and that's why we're seeing such great success. But then our January was better than our December. Yeah, that really kind of surprised us. So it got better, got almost close to 30 grand in January. And like for February, we're roughly around like 20 to 23K. So like last month was better than this month. Yeah, and then like a major challenge that we had was with our return rates around like mid-January through like early February, like first or second week of this month even. We were getting a lot of return requests, and I really don't know if it had something to do with the print quality with Monster Digital or like the batch of like Gildan sweatshirts that they received and they were printing on. Something was off and we were getting a ton of return requests, and well, we handled them all according to the advice that you guys provide. And also after that, we had to kind of edit our return policy a little bit. Maybe that's like the only part that we didn't follow the course to the dot. And to be honest, really, it hasn't hurt us. Like our conversion rate has remained steady after basically not promoting like free returns or like our satisfaction guarantee. We still take care of our customers when they reach out to us and they ask for a refund or they complain about the quality here and there. Well, we take care of them. We'll give their money back, or we'll send them a replacement, all of that. But like we haven't made it our kind of selling point, basically. We're not like actively promoting it. And right now we're at a point that like so far everything has been US only. I think we're finally at a point that we can comfortably say that, okay, well, we've been profitable enough. We have scaled this to a point that we're ready to go international. So we're going to add Canada campaign hopefully later today, and then we'll go from there. And like once Canada is successful and can we figure out that process of duping the products and like finding the international providers and all of that and routing the orders, then we'll proceed with scaling it even further to Europe and other places. So that's where we are.
Beautiful. And so a couple of things that I pick up from what you're saying is that number one, you followed a process, but you also weren't afraid to, you took ownership, like it's your brand, you and your wife, it's your guys' brand, and you have to make each decision for yourself and like what fits your brand, and that it doesn't have to be following everything cookie cutter. It's taking it on a case by case basis and making it work for you and what you want to turn it into. And another thing that I noticed from what you're saying is that it sounds like you guys are very systematic, that you, as a pair, you guys don't often put the cart before the horse and like try to scale quicker than you're ready for, or you're not, it doesn't sound like you're starting like a bunch of side projects or things to add on to the brand. It's just like one thing at a time, and, just doing what we currently do extremely well and making sure that adding on something new doesn't impact our ability to continue to perform the way that we have on our existing products and channels and that sort of thing. So that's great. And I have a couple of rapid fire questions to wrap things up if you're game.
Sure.
And the first question is, were there any misconceptions that you had coming into print on demand that maybe, are pretty common out there, that now being on the other side, doing tens of thousands of dollars in sales and all the experience you have, now you realize at this point that it wasn't true?
So I got this advice sometime in my learning process a few years ago that like print on demand, like t-shirt isn't really a business. And I think like that video is still out there somewhere on YouTube. A lot of people have seen that. And that's definitely a misconception. I mean, like with the right setup, with the right way of approaching it, yeah, definitely you still can sell print on demand t-shirts. And they're like, well, yeah, like you guys say, and like you guys like have those brands, like there are $1 million businesses like selling only t-shirts, and it could work with the right setup, with the right process. So yeah, definitely that was the one for me, and that really prevented me from working on my store like earlier. So because I kind of had that like in my mind that okay, t-shirts are not going to work, so let me find, I don't know, like print on demand metal or luggage or other stuff. But like those are such small portion of the like total revenue in this model. If you just like think about it, like what percentage of people are going to go get like those print on demand like metal type of decorations that you see out there, or same metal luggage, and then just compare that to like multiple t-shirts that like each of us own. So yeah, that was the one for me.
Yeah. Awesome. And then on the flip side of that, what would you say is like the most important skill? If say somebody's starting in print on demand, for whatever reason, they're only able to learn one thing, what would that one thing be in your mind?
Staying on top of your financials, running your P&L daily, and like staying committed to that. Yeah, I would say like that gives you the information that you need to know in order to like where to work on and where to put your focus on. Yeah.
Awesome. And then for anybody who's watching this, who's maybe considering starting a brand, they've watched some print on demand videos, or maybe they've already started designing, or maybe even they've launched some initial ads, but as we know, it's very normal. There's optimizations to go through. What would you say to that person in terms of like, the valley where it's uninformed optimism, informed pessimism, then in the valley where that's where the learning happens. That's like where it can feel like a real challenge, but obviously that's the part that we have to push through. What would you say to people that are in that stage?
Just to kind of embrace that learning process, hence the name. It is a process and it takes time, and it comes like step to step. At the same time, like the advice that like you give and you remind us all the time, like in the course in the university, like don't consume the information just for the sake of like using it like sometime down the road. Like use the information that you need, act on it, just like optimize kind of that segment of the process, and then move on to the next thing that you need to learn. Like those two, I would say, yeah.
Awesome. And then finally, with everything that you yourself and your wife, you guys have accomplished in a relatively short period of time, as we look out on the horizon, a year down the road, 2 years, what excites you, and what do you think comes next for your team and your brand?
This is a brand in a niche that is very close to my heart. So really kind of seeing that like personal impact that we can have like on different people's lives really keeps us going. Just making sure that like we're kind of scaling this to the maximum level possible. Like with the results that we've seen, I think this can easily be a $1 million business a year. Very, very reachable. Like I said, like so far we've done only US, and even like in the US we haven't scaled to the maximum level, and there is definitely a lot more than we can do with the efficiency gains that we can find, like improving the scaling in the US and then like going international and like fixing our email, all of that. I'm pretty sure in a year or so we can easily be a $1 million business, and and then we'll see what's next. Yeah. I really haven't thought about like the 5-year plan for this business, more of a like midterm, like next year or so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. Some of the things that I really appreciate about yourself and your wife and your approach in general is how, like you mentioned about your niche, that you pick something that you're personally very passionate about. And I'm sure that shines through in all of your designs, your customer service messages, and that uniqueness and like personality is something that your customers can really resonate with. And I'm sure that that's something that's just going to continue to compound for you. But then at the same time, you are very pragmatic in your approach, it seems like, and that you don't bite off more than you and your wife are able to chew at one time. And that you also keep an eye on like what actually matters and what's most important. And that through all the ups and downs, you guys are very objective about like your own, like as a team where you stand and like where your opportunities for growth, both in terms of skill set and in terms of the brand. And that shows in like how you identified like not running the financials early on enough. It's like, it's a simple thing, but like we got to do it. And then you guys were able to make that adjustment. And then it sounds like as you guys progress, there's no lesson lost on you. Like everything that you learn, you're taking it and like locking it in to how you operate. And that's just going to continue to compound for you down the line. So thank you so much for sharing all that. And to everybody watching, if you have any questions or anything that Bahadur talked about today really resonated with you, we'd love to hear from you down below. But other than that, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.